Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today's episode is about how change comes when you vote. I think I may have used this theme before in a past episode. Actually, no. I've 100% used this theme before in a past episode, but we're reusing it because voting is just that important. Today I'm joined by two Danys, which I haven't had before on this podcast, and they join me to talk about their work with the Migrant Democracy Project. The deadline to register to vote in the UK is 11:59 p.m. on the 20th of April 2026, and that is in order to vote in the local government elections, Scottish Parliament elections, Senedd Cymru elections, and the mayoral elections in England on the 7th of May 2026. So if you are planning on voting in any of those elections, make sure that you are registered to vote by the 20th of April. So add the 20th of April to your calendar, do whatever you need to do, make sure you are registered. The Migrant Democracy Project is also holding a Votes for All mass lobby on the 20th of April, so I'm so grateful that Dany and Dani spoke with me about their campaign this week ahead of the 20th. So without further ado, this is Dany and Dani from the Migrant Democracy Project.
Hi everyone, my name is Dany Shibu. I am currently in my final year of school. I'm doing A-levels. I hope to go to uni this year to study politics and international relations at university level.
Hey everyone, my name is also Dani and I'm a current second year student at university studying Scots Law with Spanish.
That is awesome. Thank you guys. Can you please tell me what got you interested in I'm going to go with change making as the catch-all term here because after doing a little bit of LinkedIn stalking, I know some about the work that you guys do. And I'm going to go, change making as kind of a catch-all. So what made you want to get involved?
Dani, do you want to go first?
I don't mind. Okay. Yeah, I'll go first. So my journey to change making started in high school. A story that loads of people within the Scottish Youth Parliament have, that their modern studies teacher is the person that made them aware of what the Scottish Youth Parliament is and encouraged them to stand. So my own modern studies teacher encouraged me to stand. I was in fifth year actually. So I stood with my classmate. However, first time round, I actually did not get elected as there were three candidates and there were only two spots. However, 1 year in, one of the two people represented my own local authority had to stand down. So I was able to, be part of the Scottish Youth Parliament through my by-election, and that's what kind of kick-started off me being involved. Prior to actually becoming a member, I was disheartened that I didn't get it. However, I still thought that being part of my local community was so important. So I still volunteered at my local youth group where, I took up different roles and I was on the board, representing young people and just trying to create things for young people to do in our area. Fast forward, then I became a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament. I think it just kick-started off there.
Thank you. That's awesome. And what about the other Dany? You go for it.
I think change making in general, I think growing up, I was very disconnected from politics and everything that had to do with politics. I guess I found politics very boring, and then I felt like it was as a child, I was like, oh, it's an adult thing. I don't need to know anything about it. Because growing up, my dad would encourage me to read the newspaper and listen, sit with him and watch the news and stuff. But I literally did not care at all. But then when this was back when I lived in Saudi Arabia, I learned about how me and my family didn't have the same rights as people who were nationals of Saudi Arabia, just because we had a different passport, just because we were from a different country. And there was really adamant and very open inequalities that different people faced, especially within the Middle Eastern labor camps and stuff. And then we moved to India, where I first started studying Indian politics, and it was very inspirational how post-colonial, how people brought up democracy, the entire Quit India movement, which I learned a lot about that. And then I ended up moving here. And then I remember when I was 17, I got a letter to register for vote, and I was like, you know what, let's do this. But then I went to vote. Since I got the letter to register to vote, I could vote in the 2022 local elections. And when I showed up, they said, you aren't 18, you're not allowed to vote, which I didn't even know that, because in my head, if I was asked to register to vote, I assumed that I could vote, but that wasn't the case. Shortly after that, I learned about Politics in Action, a charity in Northern Ireland that focuses on making politics more accessible for young people. And it's like, especially in Northern Ireland, where like the politics and the climate here is so divided at all, and everything is like very religious based, even though it isn't. So they're trying to like get more young people more knowledge because unlike Scotland, politics isn't really taught here. There's no such thing as modern studies, even though politics, like they're meant to teach kids about democracy and stuff like that in what they call LW, Learning for Life for Work. But it's really shady. Some schools don't do it, so like it's really up to schools. So not everyone has equal and fair access to it. So Politics in Action ran like school programs in my old school, which my sister was a part of, and she would tell me about all these cool projects she was taking a part on, and like their trips to like Stormont. Stormont is the Northern Ireland Assembly, which I was like, okay, this is very cool. So I remember I was set. This was then I was like still 17 at this age when I learned that they were starting a Vote to 16 campaign in Northern Ireland. And like, I was like, you know what? I want to like get involved. I want to know. So I just like emailed Paul, who's the director of Politics in Action. And he was like, why don't you just come along? So I went to it and I was so inspired by all the young people. And like, there was like people from Wales, young people from Wales, Scotland, England, how they were talking about like how having the right to vote like really like changed their lives and like how they're more better like participants in democracy. So then I joined the campaign group, and from there, I guess change making kind of snowballed for me because like I was like talking to MPs, I was talking to MLAs. We met with the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Hilary Benn, and it was such a cool experience because growing up, I always thought, oh, politicians were like some higher than thou beings, but like I realized like they are exist to represent me and everyone like me, young people everywhere. With through Politics in Action, I've also like done a lot of like peace and reconciliation work where we work with like youth groups focusing on issues like environment, which is like a common issue, to like show that not everything's about religion. And then I had the wonderful opportunity now to be appointed as one of the newest trustees for Politics in Action on their board, which is so cool to me. Still feels weird every time I'm in a board meeting with all these older adults, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm not supposed to be here, but that's not the case. They take my views like very on board, like as anyone else. So it's really nice to actually be there and make like essentially like be part of the decision making of all the projects like Politics in Action do. And then I think I got involved with my Say Through Their Squad leadership program, which was amazing. It was a year-long program with different workshops, events where they like build your leadership essentially and like show that like you can also make change. You don't have to be uncomfortable. You can step up, and there's a lot of accessible ways. And then that's when I heard about Migrant Democracy Project and their work for promoting and upholding, migrant rights in the UK at the moment. Especially, in this current climate where like migrants are being blamed for a majority of issues that aren't even migrant fault. Like it's just like migrants are the scapegoats. And then I heard that they were launching their spokesperson program for their Our Home, Our Votes campaign, which is a residency-based voting rights. So I got involved with them to promote the residency-based voting rights campaign, and that's how I'm here now.
Thank you, Dany. That's so exciting. And that was the perfect segue. Can one of you tell me about this campaign? Because that's how we threw this interview together very quickly. I saw some of your campaign on Saturday, and now we're recording on a Monday for everyone listening. So thank you both for doing this. But can either of you tell me a little bit about the campaign? Maybe we'll come to Dany from Scotland and then Dany from Northern Ireland, fill in the gaps along the way.
Yeah.
But if you guys go for it.
Yeah, that sounds good. So a big issue that we have in the United Kingdom is that each of the four nations have their own rules regarding voting. So, for example, like Dany said, he got a letter at 17, went up and they're like, sorry, you're not 18 yet. So the reason why I'm involved with this is actually because when I was 18, it was actually the year of the UK general election. So everybody in my class was excited, like, oh, do you know who you're voting for, this and that? Like, oh my God, I can't wait. So likewise, especially in a class that or students that do modern studies, there is a reason why we all picked that subject is because we're all interested in politics, whatever that may look like for each of us. So, so one thing about Scotland is you can register from the age of 14. So I've been registered since I was 14 years old. So, this is something that I've been looking forward to. Day of the election, I got up to the polling station all excited, and there is a line through my name, and they tell me, not sure why, but you can't vote. So defeated, I leave. They give me a leaflet, tell me to call the Electoral Commission, call them up, and they're like, oh, due to the fact that you're an Italian national, you don't have the right to vote in UK general elections. So I was mad, but I was like, you know what, whatever. A couple of months later is actually when I find out about the spokesperson network, and I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly why I've been so frustrated, is because each nation has its own rules, which means sometimes even migrants that English might not be that strong of the language for them, they get confused as well, and they just get disenfranchised and don't care at all. So what our campaign is to have a uniform, equal approach to voting rights, which is most similar to the one in Scotland, which is a residence-based approach. What that means for people that may not know is the fact that the only thing that you need is to be a resident in the country. You only need to be a resident in Scotland. That means international students that may be here for how many years are allowed to vote. No matter what your nationality is, you have the right to vote for a representative that has vowed to represent your rights in Parliament. So that is what we're trying to aim for. This is what we're trying to campaign for. Especially as many people know, recently they've announced that they want to grant the voting rights to 16 and 17-year-olds, which is fantastic. But what I find frustrating is so many peers around my age are all excited, but they're not mentioning the fact that this is happening, but migrants are still not in the picture. And even more worryingly is the fact that they're trying to remove the rights of Commonwealth citizens to vote. So with general elections, Commonwealth citizens can also vote. And what I find funny, them removing that is kind of slap on the face for them due to the Britain's colonial past. Primarily the reason why they gave them a voting right. So this is what we're trying to campaign for. This is why we think it's so important, because many people say the fact that, we work, we pay taxes, we study in the country is a big reason why we should have voting rights. But I'd like to counter that is the fact that we just exist, is the fact we just live in this country, is the fact that we have neighbours, we have a community in this place. I think that is sufficient enough for us to be able to put an X in that polling card in a polling station for us to say who we want to be in power, especially as our whole identities nowadays is being used kind of a political scapegoat. Not many politicians have the guts to actually look at the reason why there's so many issues in our countries, whatever issues that may be. And the fact that somebody wanted to move from their country to a country that they thought was better for themselves and potentially also their families, that is not why we have rising costs in different areas of our communities or our society. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell what we're trying to campaign for.
Yeah, and exactly as Dani said, from like Scotland and Wales already have local residence-based voting rights. Which that means that they can vote in local elections, but not the general election. But here in Northern Ireland, we have no rights at all. It will purely depend of a British, Irish, or a qualifying Commonwealth citizen, as they like to put it, which is so like bizarre to me because over 5 million residents in Northern Ireland and England cannot vote at all in any elections, which these legislators, these elected officials, they're making like decisions that affect everyone in the country's like daily livelihoods. That people are being affected by these decisions, but yet these people don't have the right to challenge those decisions, nor to like vote and be and participate in democracy. I remember my passion for this like grew even more when it was in the recent like race riots that happened in the UK, all around the UK, where I like feared for my genuine safety. Like my parents would advise me not to go outside because like people would like get mad at me for just the color of my skin, which is so bizarre to me. And like Northern Ireland still doesn't have an anti-hate strategy, and I believe like we would have had one ages ago if there was someone from the community representing our interests in an elected office. Whereas till date, I think it was in 2010, there was only been one person from the ethnic minority community to ever been elected into official office in Northern Ireland, and that was the late Anna Logue. even with her office, like she was ridiculed. She faced a lot of racism and a lot of backlash by the public, even though she just wanted to serve her community. But yeah, and that's why we are like campaigning for residency-based voting rights, where everyone will be eligible to vote in elections, in any elections, like regardless of a person's nationality or like their immigration status.
I love that. I think that is, well, I don't love a lot of that, but I love the work that you're doing because of some of these experiences that you've had. For me, of course, so I live in the UK, and I actually had I was campaigning for like the Give an X campaign a lot, pretty heavily when the general election came. And it was a talking point for me to make the point, like, I want everyone to vote because I can't, which also really sucks. And so I love that you guys are doing this because it really shows, just how, of course, it's affected you, but also your communities and the people around you. And this campaign seems like a wonderful representation of the power of people to come together and hopefully make change. So I love this. Can you tell me about the best ways for people to support you off the back of all of that? How can people learn about the campaign, get involved if they would like? I know we're on kind of a time crunch, so how can people get involved in the next few days?
I can vote. So, as many people know, the 20th of April is actually the last day you can register to vote for these parliamentary and local elections on the 7th of May. Of course, it will reopen after that, but this is just the deadline for this year's specific elections. So, in the next few days, if you'd like to be involved, we actually holding a mass lobby in Parliament on the 20th of April in Parliament in London. So if anyone is able to travel, by the time this comes out, I don't believe you'll be able to apply for funding. So if you're outside the London area, we do apologise. But if you're surrounding the London area, you're able to get there and it's accessible to yourself, we'd really appreciate your support, because a part of this work, we need people to see that there are people that care, and being there, being present, sometimes it's just enough. So we'd really appreciate you guys being present and also just following us. So if you just search up Migrant Democracy Project, our website will show up, and there's just different ways to show up. One way you can do, we have templates on our website, which you can send directly to your MSP. All you need to do is just put your name at the end so they know it's from, their own constituent. You can put your postcode there, and then we'll automatically be able to know what one is your MSP or MP or whatever is applicable to yourself. Just write into your own elected representative to tell them, look, this is an issue myself or my community is facing, because this is not only a migrant issue, this is an issue that inadvertently affects everyone. May you be a UK national or not a UK national. So this is a call to everyone. This is not just a call to the migrant community. Dani, would you like to add anything else I've missed?
One thing I would like to say is that to the people listening who can vote, do register to vote, do go out and do on election day, go vote, because you're voting for millions of people, not just for yourself, you're voting for millions of people who don't have the right. Often I'm asked the question, oh, what's my vote realistically going to do? What's my vote going to do? But like voting is the basic way of participating in this democracy. So when you complain about these issues like further down the line, that, oh, maybe I should have voted. Never have that regret. Vote, go vote for the people who can, go vote for the people who can, but they weren't. But like in the end, it will matter. Like, 'cause every vote matters in the end. And also, like, millions of us migrants like live every day in fear, essentially. So like you're like supporting migrant voices and supporting migrant rights by exercising your right to vote that we don't have.
Yeah, and just to piggyback of what you said. So just to piggyback of what you said, no matter what part of the political spectrum you are, some of the things that happened recently, especially with, the Greens winning for the first time ever a by-election, that shows that yes, as individuals we're strong, but we work stronger as a collective. So no matter where you are, left or right or centre, that shows that people never thought Greens could get to that level of power, yet as individuals they came out and showed that they care about the community and managed to get an MP elected into Parliament. So that really shows that you might be one sole individual, but that sometimes that can be the difference between who wins and who loses a seat. So like Dani said, we really urge you, register to vote and actually use that vote.
I love that for everyone just listening, because I am too lazy to make video podcasts. I'm like nodding my head. I feel like I was just like snapping, silent clapping. This is awesome. I feel like the energy is so good, and I think you're both so right. So I will also link all of those materials so people can check out all of the socials and the websites and everything. My last question for both of you is, lots of young people might want to make change or get involved in this work that you're doing, but they might not know how to do it? What advice would you like to share with them? Do either of you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first because, like, I think speaking from my personal experience, I remember I don't live in a city. Like, I feel like most like political things happen in the city, and I was always confused on how to get involved. I always felt like that was a barrier. But just like email like crazy because that's what I did. I was like on a whim, I asked, "Hey, can I come to this event?" And then they would reply, "Be like, yeah, come along." And then the next day I went, and that's how I got involved. So like email, because like people are more than happy to get more volunteers, get more like help, because like the issues that you face, people are maybe already working towards solutions to that. So you can like join movements, join organizations, and even if you don't want to get actively involved, you can also check out their social medias, sign up to newsletters, be informed, and spread the word as well.
And I completely sympathize with young people not knowing where to start. I think myself with my journey, I kind of climbed up. I literally went from local to national with the work that I've done. But one thing I'll say, I feel like people just see the big stuff, like the flashy stuff, the one that is international, people going, outside of their own country to speak to people, speak to the prime. It's not always like that. I think what people need to realize that these people started from their own local communities. These people started small. And even though it might not feel like you're doing something that is so international, so amazing, you can influence one person's decision of one person's what one person knows. Like you can be the reason why one person knows more about voting. And I think that's enough. I think so, especially in this day and age, social media truly is a tool. Most people, have followers, their classmates follow them. Even if it means that you've posted once and you're posting just a wee slideshow on Instagram about voting or about your experience, I feel like that's enough because many people don't have the same lived experience as yourself. And sometimes I feel like I assume people know what I know. And the only reason I know some things is because I've lived through them. And it's something I'm trying to deconstruct myself because my lived experience is not the same lived experience as somebody else. And what I know and what my algorithm shows me and teaches me is not the same as somebody else's. So definitely just even if it is, or sometimes you don't even have to start yourself, find established youth groups. I know it can be different depending on the area that you live in. I know especially when I talk to people within the Scottish Youth Parliament, especially if they're further north than myself up in the islands, it can be more difficult as there is less established groups. A, find established groups that are close to yourself, or B, be the first person to start because you never know if other people or how many other people in your own area are, feeling the same things that you're feeling. So sometimes I think you just need to start. Even if it's messy at the first time, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that's what people need to stop doing is I think you need to just stop trying to achieve perfectness in what you do. You will make mistakes along the way, everybody does. But is your intention and what you're trying to teach that people will remember mostly?
And to just add to Dany, we might not know everything and we might know nothing at all, and everyone will start somewhere. I came into this knowing nothing about politics, and I learn every day as I go along, and that's okay. Like coming with no knowledge is perfectly fine because that's what I did. But each day you'll learn. You learn from peers. You learn from meeting new people. You learn about all the stuff that's happening around you, and this stuff will excite you and want you to learn more. So that's literally it. Start a little fire, and that fire will grow.
It was so wonderful to talk with Dany and Dani, and I was so inspired by this conversation. As anyone who knows me knows, and if you've listened to other episodes of this podcast, you also know, I am like a broken record when it comes to voting, so I 100% agree with so much of what the Danys shared in this episode. If you would like to learn more about the Migrant Democracy Project and get involved in their campaigns, please check out the description for all of the links to their website and their socials. And last but not least, before you leave, please remember that change comes when you vote. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Dany and Dani on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I included those links in the description of this episode. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I'm working on expanding Be The Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests and incredible hosts. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment, because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.